Hello viewers, I'm Goo Goober and I'm recording this on my phone. Listen, I read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and I promised myself that I would not become obsessed with this fictional murderer. But here we are. So how'd he become so endearing to me? Well, I'm gonna go over the story of issues 1 and 2 for you all so that hopefully you don't think I'm insane. Trigger warnings for suicide, potential child abuse, and obviously murder. The story starts off with a child named Squee and his teddy bear Shmee. They both hear noises in the night, so he goes to his mom, who says that she's ignoring him right now and to go ask his father. His father, pretty much says that he never wanted Squee in the first place. So Squee has to go back to his room, scared of the noises. When he goes back to his room, he hears a smash come from the bathroom. And he takes Shmee in there with him to protect him. Then we get introduced to our titular character, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, asking for the Bactine, which I assume is like rubbing alcohol of some sort. He says hello to Squee, who's obviously scared, asks Squee his name, to which Squee replies, Squee. His name is Todd, but Squee's the noise he makes when he's scared, so it kind of just stuck. Johnny eventually finds the Bactine, pours it all over his head, and then says that his victim scraped him up like he was a cat on crack. All right. I've never heard that one. Johnny seems to be nice, and he picks up Shmee, the teddy bear, and starts talking to him. Well, by talking to him, it's like how Squee talks to Shmee, where he thinks the teddy bear is responding to him. More on that later, but he then says that the teddy bear speaks lies, and he pins it up to the wall and just stabs the crap out of it. He says that he should go now, leave Squee with his ripped up teddy bear, and says that they'll see each other again because now they're neighbors. Then we get to the next chapter, where there's a man who's going door to door asking people questions for a survey about murder. He comes up to a woman's door, and she opens the door with a bunch of babies crawling all over her. She's clearly a mother. And he asks her what she thinks about murder, to which she replies that last week they found her husband with human skulls stuffed into his open chest cavity, so, murder is bad. He then makes the poor decision of walking up to Johnny's home, to which we learn that his address is 777, the number for heaven, which Johnny immediately nuh-uhs that by saying, "Does this look like heaven?" And he opens up his door to reveal a noose hanging in the background and filthy walls. The survey man then decides to point out that Johnny's doorbell is broken, and it makes a weird sound when you press it. It then cuts to a panel of a man tied up to a bunch of wires, and whenever the doorbell rings, he receives an electric shock. This is clearly the work of Johnny. The survey man then reveals that he's taking a survey, to which Johnny pulls him inside. He then says, 2 nights ago I was taking a walk at night and this little chihuahua started following me. God damn it, it knew. I ran and finally lost it and made it home, but it knew. So yet another example of why Johnny is insane. The survey man is obviously rattled by this, but Johnny encourages him to ask questions, which he responds very eloquently to. The survey man then says that he doesn't know why he was worried, and proceeds to his next question. He says, "You might remember the girl found behind the mall. Very strange. She was drained of all her blood. Police think that maybe the killer has some sort of vampirism thing, like he drinks his victim's blood." Johnny is incredibly offended by this and says that he never drank her blood, but he needed it. He points with a knife to a wall behind him that seems to be entirely painted with blood. And it says, "You see, it changes color when it dries. It never stays. I have to keep the wall wet." He then kills the survey man and throws him out the window. And Squee is riding by on his bicycle and sees this. Alright, so up until now I've been using bullet points to make this video. But this chapter is where we really see him freak out. The title header has been changed to Johnny the Suicidal Maniac, so you can guess what this chapter is about. Actually, chapters like this show up in pretty much every issue. It starts off with Johnny saying that he's going to off himself because there's nothing else to do, and he's lonely. I mean, who's gonna hang out with a murderer? Yeah, I'd probably hang out with him, actually. He then breaks out a weapon and points it at his head, saying he's going over the stars. He's then interrupted by a bunny. Yes, a bunny that he nailed to the wall. Maybe I wouldn't hang out with him. The bunny, which is clearly dead, tells him that offing himself is not the answer. But then Psycho Doughboy, which is literally just a painted over Pillsbury standee, says Johnny should off himself. Johnny agrees. Nail Bunny and Psycho Doughboy keep arguing until Nail Bunny tells Johnny that he's not insane, which is weird coming from a dead bunny. Psycho Doughboy, of course, disagrees, telling Johnny that he's beyond redemption. Then we see what seems to be an animal fetus in a jar that never shows up again, and it says the commercial where the whole family gets diarrhea is on again. Johnny immediately gets distracted and doesn't off himself, ending issue 1. Issue 2 begins on a much darker note, with Johnny lamenting that people are so unpleasant while he has a victim tied up to some sort of knife contraption. They start to have a very philosophical discussion about how people are so unpleasant. This victim, who's named Edgar Vargas, says that if Johnny thinks that people are so unpleasant, why doesn't he just kill himself? Johnny says that he thinks that there's something stopping him from doing that. Edgar Vargas then asks Johnny to let him go, to which Johnny says that he has to kill him because he needs blood. He says that there is a wall in the room of one of the upper levels, and that Edgar is underground right now. But anyhow, if he doesn't keep painting the wall, it goes soft, and something from the other side begins to push through, and Johnny does not want to see what it is. Edgar asks again that Johnny reconsider letting him go, to which Johnny gets extremely upset, saying that he has to kill Edgar. Edgar says that he's not afraid, and that he has faith on his side, so he has nothing to fear. Johnny says that he envies Edgar's conviction, and then kills him, saying that it did nothing for him. The next chapter is all about the noises Johnny's victims make. It starts off with someone begging Johnny to let him go, and that he'll be nice to Johnny. It then cuts to a man who's strung up, calling Johnny multiple slurs. Then it cuts to a man in a box full of rats, begging Johnny to also let him go, and then afterwards saying, "Oh please, let this crazy bastard buy that load of bullshit." Johnny then laments that he should simply buy a pair of earplugs. I'm yet again breaking out of bullet points because there's a lot in this chapter. Johnny is on a date with a girl named Devi, who works at a bookstore. She asks if Johnny wants to go back to his place, and he agrees. They talk about how they met, why they're going out, etc. It's clear that Devi really likes Johnny, and Johnny says that he's happy. They're about to kiss when Johnny bolts out of the room. In this chapter, we're also introduced to Mr. F, yet another repainted Pillsbury standee. He and Psycho Doughboy will often argue in the coming chapters. They convince Johnny to try and preserve the moment by killing Devi. Johnny, however, being the insane person he is, agrees. Devi, however, is not a fan and responds by beating Johnny within an inch of his life. Like, look at this. This is crazy. We're back with yet another Johnny the Suicidal Maniac chapter, so trigger warnings ahead, I guess. He walks into a gas station to get a slushie. It's 2 a.m., and so they have turned the machines off. Johnny gets very sad about this and laments that he's going to kill himself. He then says that he's taking the cashier with him. He takes a gun from behind the register and points it at the cashier. He says that he's going to use it to kill the cashier and then himself. He goes on this whole tangent about how even if he turned the slushie machine on, it wouldn't matter because it's a reminder of everything that's wrong with this world. I'm not kidding. I'll show a picture of it on screen right now. He then kills the cashier and finds that there was only one bullet in the gun, and now there's nothing left to kill himself with. But luckily, he sees cherry soda, and he's fine with that. And with that, we've made it to the end of issue 2. Both of those issues were pretty insane, right? I always enjoy when a story is told through shorter stories, like Azumanga Daioh.
Hello, everyone.
The art is also gorgeous, as is to be expected from Jhonen Vasquez, the creator of Invader Zim. Now, what's the point of all this violence? I don't know, I just think it's funny. Of course, there's some heavier chapters, but mostly it's just really fun to read. The later issues will gradually get heavier and heavier, and I'll cover all those in other videos. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see my art or even more commentary, subscribe. Or just stalk my page without subscribing. Views help a lot too. Have a lovely day. I've been Goo Goober. Drink some water.